Welcome back. The International Monetary Fund says despite an uncertain outlook, the potential of sub-Saharan Africa and the resourcefulness of its people remain clear. According to the IMF, now is the time for lasting transformational reforms as policymakers in sub-Saharan Africa face the added challenge of rekindling their economies with fewer resources and more difficult choices. But joining us now to drill down on the report is Matt Kinniger, an Associate Practice Lead at Sub-Saharan Africa in Dakar Frontier. Good afternoon, Matt. Thank you for joining us on the program. Now, what are the major trends that stood out for you in the IMF's report on Sub-Saharan Africa?
Well, yes, it was quite an interesting report and also quite sobering to an extent. So one of the interesting trends that we are likely to see this year is a full-year recession of around about 3% for the entire region. However, there will be great variation between markets, with some markets contracting a lot steeper than that. And also very interesting to see the growth outlook. So the IMF is forecasting growth of 3.1% for the entire region in 2021, but again, quite significant variation. So some markets like Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire performing very well, whereas countries like South Africa not performing particularly well next year. Another major thing that stood out was per capita income levels are expected to fall back to 2013 levels, which is really quite a setback for the region overall.
Now, but given the dramatic economic shifts that are happening across sub-Saharan Africa, how are multinational companies adjusting to this new environment?
Yes, I mean, it's a really interesting question because companies are really scrabbling to try to adapt to this environment. It's quite an unprecedented economic shock across the region. But there are four main things that companies appear to be doing and will probably do over the course of 2021. So it revolves around looking at their product portfolios in Africa to make sure that they are affordable and appealing to customers that have gone through a shock this year. Also looking at their market portfolios, focusing on the most resilient markets and also the markets that are growing the fastest next year, so potentially reallocating some resources to the fastest growing markets. Thinking about how they engage with customers. So we've seen a boom in digital engagement, a really sharp acceleration in digital engagement, either through e-commerce or through marketing, for example. So thinking about how companies can increase their digital engagement with customers is really important. And also how they work with their local partners. So many multinationals will need to support their local partners through this period of difficulty. And multinationals realize that actually investing more in skills development, for example, is going to be really important.
So what are the downside risks to sub-Saharan Africa's growth outlook that companies should actually look out for in 2021?
Yes, so there is obviously a more upbeat view for 2021 for sub-Saharan Africa. We are expecting the region to recover overall, but there are a number of downside risks that we are monitoring here at Dakar Frontier. That includes debt. So we've seen public debt. We've seen Zambia default in its debt over the last few weeks. There's also a risk. That would result in much stronger or much quicker fiscal consolidation. So higher taxes, delays to infrastructure investment, for example, which could reduce demand. There's also a risk of a severe second wave. Well, we're already seeing this in Europe of coronavirus cases. But if it gets much worse throughout the winter in the Northern Hemisphere, that could reduce demand for tourism in Africa, but also exports from countries like Kenya and South Africa, very crucially. But also there is a risk around a deterioration in agriculture conditions. So last year was quite a difficult year for the region. We are expecting to see a recovery, which will support rural consumer demand especially. But if we do see another period of drought in East Africa or Southern Africa, or a repeat of the locust infestations that we saw, then that could affect economic growth quite substantially in 2021.
Associate Practice Lead, Sub-Saharan Africa, Dakar Frontier, London, Matt Kinniger, thank you for speaking with us this afternoon.
Thank you.